Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be doing a review on the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk eyeshadow palette, and we're going to do a little mini tutorial. We're going to do some swatches, and then we're going to talk about review, talk about some price points. I didn't really mention much about weight or ingredients or anything like that because I'm not really a pro when it comes to that sort of thing. And just to let you know ahead of time, my swatches are sort of inspired by Stephanie Nicole and the way she does them. So if you want some really amazing in-depth eyeshadow palette reviews, go ahead and check out her channel. She makes really amazing swatch and review videos. So yeah, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so I want to run through the tutorial part fairly quickly because I've got to get into swatches and the review and stuff like that. So I started off with the Laura Geller Champagne Tinted Under Makeup Primer. I've used a mix of the Collection Lasting Perfection Foundation and the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Foundation. I've just set my face with the Makeup Revolution Banana Powder, and I've just put some under my eyes as well to bake and to catch any fallout, just because it's a bit neater that way. I did a very similar routine to this in my sort of autumnal tutorial, the smoky one. So if you want to see those products in action, you can go ahead and watch that. But I'll leave all the products listed and linked down below, so you can go have a look at those anyway. But for now we're going to go into the palette, and I'm going to start off with the shade Eden, which is this sort of peachy colour here. I'm going to probably use Desert Sand later on as a highlight, but I actually prefer to go straight in with a colour rather than lay down a base with these particular shadows. Sometimes laying down a light base colour or a base colour similar to your skin tone helps blending, but I find that with these particular shades and this formula, it's easier to go straight in with colour rather than lay down a base first. I've also primed my eyes with the Collection Lasting Perfection Concealer. So I'm just going to take Eden on a Morphe E13 brush, which is just a fluffy brush to start off with. Some of these shadows work well with a fluffy brush, others it's better to use something a bit more compact. But for the transition shade, this is going to be fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply that into the crease and slightly onto the lid and start smoking it out. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the shades Amber and Saffron, and I'll probably mix a little bit between the two of those. And I'm going to go in with the same brush and also use this Makeup Revolution brush, which doesn't have a name, but it's just the like rounded one. I know this looks dirty, but it is clean. I cleaned it off in my shadow switch. But for now I'm going to take a little bit of Saffron and Amber and start adding them onto the outer crease. Yes, I'm going to try and use as many colours as possible for this tutorial. I'm going to take a bit of Blazing and I'm going to put that on the inner part of the crease. This is probably going to end up like a lot of colours and quite dramatic, but I want to show as many colours as possible on the eye. I'm just adding more of Amber and Saffron on the outer corner, just to darken it up a little bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend that out on the Morphe E30 brush, which is kind of like a bigger version of the E13. I'm just going to take the Too Faced glitter glue and pop that on my eyelid. And now I'm going to take the shade Twilight, which is this purple one, and I'm going to pop that onto where I put the glitter glue. Now I'm going to take Oud and darken up the outer corner a little bit. Now I'm going to take Amethyst along the lower lash line, and then I'm going to use Angelic as my inner corner highlight. So hey, I forgot to say, but while my other lash is drying, I'm just going to put some liner on and some lashes, and I've swept off the bake under my eyes. I just thought I'd take this opportunity to sort of show you the colours up close a little bit before I put some lashes on. This is the look I've been doing with this palette quite a lot, sometimes not with as much different colours, but I wanted to show you all the different colours and use as many as I could in like one eye look. So yeah, there we go. Oh, and these lashes I'm wearing are the Isla Vegas Nay lashes in Shining Star. I really like them because they're like quite easy to get on, but not too like natural, but they're just enough. I really like them. I like them. I actually like lashes that have a thicker band, which is rare, I think. I think most people actually like the ones with a thinner band, but nope, I find these easy to put on. I think they look better on me. I don't know what it is, but there you go. I like lashes with a thick band. Okay, I've just popped on a little bit of the Smashbox Casey Holmes highlighter palette and obviously done my other eyelash. I'm going to go ahead and move on to swatches now. For the shimmers, I'm going to be using this BH Cosmetics 122 brush, which is sort of a flat brush, which is good for packing shimmer onto the lid, things like that. And then for the mattes, I'm going to be using the BH Cosmetics 120 brush, which is more of a brush that'd be good for mattes and in the crease. And then I'm going to be cleaning, I can't talk. I'm going to be cleaning off my brushes on this Colour Switch dupe from W7. This is called the Shader Swap, but it's basically the same thing. And I'm just going to go in order they are in the palette, and I'll show them to you as we go. I'll probably do this top row, and then these three, and then I'll do these three and the bottom row, and I'll tell you all the colours and show them to you. So, oh, I'll also be priming my arm with the Lorac eye primer, the behind the scenes eye primer. Okay, so I'm just doing it row by row because I couldn't fit more than 6 on my arm for some reason. So I'm just going to show you the swatches. Don't mind me just moving over here. Okay, so this is the first row. On the end we have, sorry, let me just open it up so I know what I'm talking about. On the end by my wrist is Desert Sands. This is slightly darker than my skin tone. I describe it as a very light cream with like a slight hint of peach in it. The next one is Musk, which is a cool toned or sort of neutral taupe shade. Then we've got Eden, which I'd say is sort of a peachy colour. Then we have Amber, which is a sort of rosy brown colour. Then we've got Blood Moon, which is, this is a shimmer, and this is sort of like a shimmering red shade with sort of like a coppery pink sparkle to it. And then we have Oud, which is a blackened brown. As you can see, some of these look quite sheer in this particular swatch. I will say that sometimes these perform better on the eyes than they do swatch. So swatches aren't always everything, but this is just to show you how they do perform with those particular brushes and what sort of results you might expect from this palette. I'm going to move on to the second row now. Okay, so moving on to the second row. Here we have, oh, I didn't bring the palette with me. Will I be able to remember these names without looking? No, I'll grab it, 2 seconds. I probably could have remembered, but I don't want to be giving you the wrong information. So, right. This row also contains the 3 duochrome topper colours. I'm sorry, I don't have the best setup for swatches here. I know these are kind of hard to see, but a lot of these are sort of duochrome, so that's why I'm sort of moving my arm so you can see the colour of them. So Celestial, Twilight and Retrograde are the duochrome toppers, and they're supposed to be layered on top of other shadows, and they work best with like a glitter glue or some sort of other sticky base. But let's just go through the colours here. So this one on the end is Celestial. It's sort of a pinky gold shade. It doesn't really have any glitter in it, but it's very, yeah, it's like a rose gold colour. It looks pinker in the pan, but it's quite gold on swatches and usually on the eye. Next is Nefertiti, which is a light gold with little bits of glitter in. This is a really pretty one. Then this one here is Twilight, that shimmery purple colour. Yeah, this is one of the duochrome toppers, so is Celestial. This one is sort of a purple with red bit, like sort of flecks to it. Then we've got Amethyst, which is a matte purple. As you can see, it doesn't swatch particularly well. The next one is Royal, which is a deep shimmering purple, which looks darker on than it does in the pan. And lastly, we have Retrograde, which is the last duochrome topper, and that is kind of similar to Twilight, but darker. It's a sort of a red with blue, so it's sort of the opposite to Twilight in a way. Okay, so we are back for the last row of swatches. Just to let you know in case I didn't mention it, but I'm doing the left swatch, the right swatch is a brush swatch, and then the one next to it is a finger swatch. Okie dokie. So, yeah, so it goes brush swatch, finger swatch, etc. Okay, so we've got Cashmere on the end, which is a sort of taupey shimmer with a little bit of a pink hint to it. Then we've got Angelic, which is sort of like a pinky gold duochrome shimmer. Then we've got Cosmo, which is the pure glitter shade. And as you can see, this actually works quite well with a brush for a pressed glitter. It's a really, really beautiful colour. It's sort of a bronzy brown with pink and gold sparkles in it. It's really nice. Then we've got Turkish Delight, which is almost like a darker version of Blood Moon, but it's a bit less shimmery. It'd be really nice all over the lid colour. Then we've got Saffron, which is a sort of dark raspberry colour, and then we have Blazing, which is a burnt orange shade. I would say these are probably my two favourite mattes in the palette, Amber and Eden. I'd probably say Eden and Blazing and Saffron are my favourite ones. So yeah, there's the last row swatches for you. Oh, okay, I'm like out of breath now. That took me so long to do. Right, let's get into the review on this. So the price point of this, in the UK this is £56, and I believe in the US it's between the $56 to $60 mark. I'm not exactly sure what the conversion rate is. I bought this in Dubai for £50. It was slightly cheaper after you converted from AED to GBP. So I got this slightly cheaper than I would have done for the typical person in the UK. The outer packaging on this is gorgeous. I cannot fault the outer packaging. The box it comes in is sort of purple with diagonal stripes on it. I'll just grab that and show you. So here is the outer box that it came in, which is sort of like an iridescent purple with some lines on it. It's pretty cool. And then this is the little box, and you see everyone doing this. I can't tell if it's lined up or if it's correct. Yeah, this outer package is gorgeous. You've got that sort of duochrome finish on the eyelids. There's definitely a lot of thought put into this palette, and I think it's really nicely constructed. So yeah, back to the price point. I do think what I paid for it is quite a lot of money. It's probably more than I would usually spend on a palette. I usually go for things around the £40 mark, more like Anastasia Beverly Hills. That would be something that I would be more drawn to, or even like more affordable than that usually. I'm quite a fan of the Juvia's Place palettes. These shadows remind me quite a lot, especially the mattes. These shadows remind me of MAC shadows. If you've ever used a MAC eyeshadow, they're not particularly, I'm just talking about the mattes here. The mattes aren't particularly smooth and buttery. They're sort of a slightly rougher texture, but you don't get a lot of fallout from them. They're not necessarily the most pigmented, but they blend well. Usually I find there's two different kinds of shadows that I've sort of noticed. You have the very buttery ones that have a lot of fallout, but you know, they usually blend quite nice. Similar like Anastasia Beverly Hills. Like the Modern Renaissance does have quite a bit of kick up and fallout, but they're very soft shadows. These are more of sort of a more firmly pressed shadow. Yeah, so it depends. Maybe it just depends on the pressing. But these mattes are more sort of firmly pressed. Some of them even have a slightly sort of gritty feel to them. I don't know if you can tell looking at that amethyst colour there, but it's sort of got a rougher texture to it. So they remind me of matte shadows in that, whereas they're buildable and they blend nicely, but they're not the most pigmented. So it sort of depends on your personal preference when it comes to the formula of this. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, when I first bought this, I tried it once and it looked absolutely terrible and I hated it. If I decide to, if I can find it, I think I've still got the picture somewhere, I will insert the picture here of what it looked like the first time that I used it. So the first time I used it, it looked kind of patchy, it wouldn't blend well. I tried to use this purple colour, which I was really excited for because I don't really have many really purple shades that I like anymore. I used to love purple eyeshadows, but a lot of them I don't find, you know, to be as pigmented as I now would like. So I was really excited to use this shade, but as you see in the swatches, it's not a pigmented colour. On my lower lash line, it works better. If you use it with something like this Eco Tools sort of flat brush and just sort of like press it on, that works the best. But if you get a fluffy brush and try and put this in the crease, it's going to be incredibly, incredibly shit. It's not a bright purple. It does not look like how it looks in the pan. So I was really, really disappointed my first time using this. And I actually was pretty convinced I was going to return this to Sephora while I was on holiday. And I went back and I mentioned it to them, but they said because of the way that the cosmetics return laws are in the Middle East, that it was different to places like in America, because in America I believe they take back used makeup, you know, if you don't like it. But I wasn't able to return it even though I'd only tried out like 2 or 3 colours. And I was thinking about selling it and I wasn't really sure what to do with it because I was really, really frustrated. I tried it a few more times. I tried it with some different products. I tried it with some different brushes. And eventually I found a way to make these shadows work for me. The first time I used it with Shape Tape and I didn't like the way it looked particularly. Then I tried using it with my collection concealer and that worked a lot better. I think that Shape Tape is a bit too matte as a base for these shadows, I think, because the collection concealer is a bit more radiant. That works better. Something like the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer might work quite well underneath these shadows. I think you need something a bit more sticky and doesn't dry down too quickly if you want to use concealer as a base. I think something like MAC Soft Ochre might be a little bit too dry, or any MAC Paint Pot. But I think anything like a Too Faced Glitter Glue, the NYX Glitter Glue, they would work really nicely with the shimmers, and you're going to get a lot better. It's going to stick a lot easier to your eyes using something like that. So it took me a little while to get to grips with this palette, and for that reason I wouldn't say that this palette is very beginner friendly. I do think that these are colours that I use a lot, but not everybody might be into these kind of shades. You know, it just depends on you personally. But I wouldn't say these are beginner friendly because it took me a while to get used to them. And even my Sigma E40 brush, I can't use them with that brush, which is a foolproof brush for blending. Like, if you just want a nice brush for the crease, that's great. But that's too loosely packed to pick up much pigment of these because they are quite firmly pressed. So you might have to change up your brushes a little bit, try and do something else. I use this Makeup Revolution brush today, which works nicely because it's more sort of like densely packed, and as you can see, it's got a bit of pigment left on there. As you can see, it creates a much better finish. Something that I used the same brushes that I always swatch with, but because those BH brushes aren't quite as dense, they don't swatch the best. So I just wanted to show you that way because that's where I always swatch. But using a denser brush with the mattes will help with picking them up and getting them to adhere to the crease well. So would I recommend this palette? I think if you like these colours, if you like this eye look that I've done today, if you like the way that this has turned out, if you feel like these colours are really screaming your name, and I think if you're not a complete beginner and you're a makeup collector, a makeup artist, a makeup enthusiast, then I would recommend you get this palette. I'm not a makeup artist myself, but I do practice my makeup a lot. I wouldn't say that I'm a beginner, but you know, I'm not a professional by any means, but I know how to work with shadows and change them to make them work on me, and you know, get them to work the best that they can work. So if you look at this palette and you really enjoy these colours and you kind of don't necessarily care about changing up your brushes, I think you would enjoy this. But don't buy this palette and expect this purple to be a really pigmented purple, because it's absolutely not. You know, don't expect too much out of, you know, these colours require layering. These, you know, these duochrome topper colours, they're very sheer, they need to be used with glitter glue or a very sticky base. You're not going to get the colour you see in the pan on your eye just with any regular brush and your finger. It's a lot, you know, you sort of do have to change up the way you would perhaps normally do eyeshadow depending on your routine. So yeah, I personally had a bit of drama with this palette and I wasn't really sure what I thought about it at first, to be honest, but now that I've used it an awful lot and I keep going back to it, so I do enjoy this palette and I am glad that I purchased it. Probably, knowing what I know now, I would still repurchase it, but I'd probably have to go in with the mindset of knowing it's going to work out differently to perhaps you might expect. So I wanted to make this video to inform people who might be wondering about getting this palette, and just to let you know what you're going to be in for, and the fact that you might have to change up the way you do things a little bit. Sorry, I felt like I looked really pale, so I just went to put some lipstick on. This is just the Smashbox Triple Tone lipstick, the nude one. Really love that shade. Probably going to end up in my next monthly favourites. But yeah, so overall with this palette, I think it's, you know, listen to what I've said and just have a think about it and just really consider, will I get enough use out of this? Because £56 is an awful lot for an eyeshadow palette. You know, you've got to think, would I rather have this, or would I rather have two Juvia's Place palettes? Would I rather try a new foundation out and a new palette? Or it's up to you. But I would recommend this palette. I do really enjoy it. Just be aware you might have to change up the way you do a couple of things. But overall, I really like the way that this eye look turned out, and I have been using this palette quite a bit. So I really hope you enjoyed this review and swatches and this little mini tutorial and everything. And yeah, if you've got any requests down below of other reviews you'd like to see or makeup tutorials, just go ahead and let me know in the comments. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!